Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Davis. I hope you had a great weekend. I know you are jacked up right now to be hearing my voice coming through you loud and clear through the great network of YouTube. On a serious note, I hope everybody's healthy. I hope you're having some good family bonding time with your parents and your siblings, and you're staying socially distant from other people, staying healthy, and we can get back healthy, wealthy, and wise. So just a few things to know. That quiz I posted on Friday, you need to have done by tonight, 9 p.m., I believe I said. There's a homework posted today that needs to be done Tuesday by 9 p.m. Hopefully the first week you've kind of got used to all your teachers and how they work and how they are going to operate. I'm assuming they're going to get a little bit more used to it, just like you'll get a little bit more used to posting assignments. I know I had some growing pains. I didn't post the assignments, and you guys shared stuff with me because I had made some mistakes. So hopefully we're getting a little bit more smooth with this. I will continue to do lessons, and I will also be sprinkling bonus material. I also will have notes where either you submit a copy showing me that you took notes, or I give you bonus questions, etc. But there's going to be some ways that you need to answer, or you'll get credit for watching videos here, is what I want to say. So the first 14, 15 slides here, you just need to read over this. This is kind of what happened after the French Revolution and Europe kind of gets back to normalcy. France goes back to a monarchy. They fought so hard and lost so many lives over a revolution, and they never even went to the ballot box and had a president or an election. So they have a series of monarchs, including a lineage of Napoleons, who some had success, some didn't. And France will struggle to get their footing after Napoleon. They're even going to lose a war in 1870, about 50 years after Napoleon. It's called the Franco-Prussian War. Prussia is actually going to be a country that today basically is Germany today. Austria is going to be a major player coming up. It's going to be Austria and Germany that are going to be big allies coming up into the World War I. So we're getting pretty darn close to World War I. We just have to get through the Industrial Revolution. Russia was still a big beast out east. I'm a poet and I don't even know it. The problem with Russia is you wouldn't want to live there. I mean, everybody was a serf. The Tsar was an absolute monarchy, meaning he had unlimited power. He was the boss. Censorship on newspapers, no freedom of speech, no Second Amendment. It was just basically a really cold, terrible place to live for most people because the Tsar just ruled like a jerk. Unfortunately for the Tsars, though, is that they're going to be so hated that during the end of the World War I, they will get him and his family, much like Louis and Marie, the Tsar will get filled with bullets. So instead of going underneath the guillotine, the Tsar of Russia will get filled with lead by revolutionaries called the Bolsheviks, which we'll get to later. And the United States, what the heck was going on in the United States? We have a great guy named George Washington who settles the nation down. He actually retired after the American Revolutionary War. Him and Martha hung out at Mount Vernon, and he chillaxed, and the country kind of went was going to hell in a handbasket. So they send some bros out to George Washington. They say, bro, please come back, save this government. And he agrees to do so. It was called the Annapolis Convention, and it paved the way to get not only a constitution, but to get an executive branch of our country. Because before George Washington, we didn't have a president. That's might be saying Mr. Davis was the most redundant thing ever. He was the first president. So, of course, before Washington, we didn't have a president. But what I mean by that is we actually did have a functioning government in which George Washington was just a citizen of the country. It's because it was called the Articles of Confederation, and that was the government that was running the United States. It was a loose union of states, and they needed G-Dub to come back and settle the storm down. But George Washington, like Thomas Jefferson, like the other Virginians in the White House. He had slaves. There's even theories out there that he had slave teeth in his mouth because they may have extracted some of the slaves to have their teeth put in his dentures. But so he did have slaves. So he did not get rid of slavery. Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence, hint, that's a quiz question on tonight's quiz if you haven't taken it. He didn't get rid of slavery. So slavery is going to go on and on and on until, the 16th president, Honest Abe, from our home state, from Hardin County. He was a hard son of a gun. Again, with my Carl Zoo's puns. So he finally takes slavery to task. Helped out by a guy named Frederick Douglass, and who was an escaped slave and advisor to President Lincoln. They finally get rid of slavery. 13th Amendment, the Emancipation Proclamation. Yet, trick question, not all slaves were free because the 13th Amendment was passed when the South was not part of our country. So not everybody in our country was free at that point. So it was South Carolina that led the charge in getting out of the Union, and it was the Battle of Fort Sumter where the first shots were fired. Lincoln does live to see the end of the war. The Confederates surrender on April 9th, 1865. Unfortunately, which we know from my government estudiantes, is Abraham Lincoln only lives to see 5 days of a non-war presidency. So he goes to a play, My American Cousin, with his lady Mary Todd, and they invite several people. They all turn him down, and finally they get Major Henry Rathbone and his fiancee Claire go to a play with the Lincolns, and Abraham Lincoln is shot mortally wounded in his presidential box by John Wilkes Booth, who was a well-known actor at the time. He jumped out of the box onto the stage, breaks his leg. They thought that this was part of the play because he was an actor. It'd kind of be like some D-list celebrity, maybe like Keanu Reeves jumping out of the crowd at some famous award show or something. People thought it was part of the play, but clearly it wasn't. Abraham Lincoln is rushed across the street to a house next door. The streets were made of cobblestone at that time, so they didn't want to take his body back to the White House. They thought it would just be too rough of a ride, and it was a horse carriage that would have taken him back. So they take him back across the street, and he passes away. All thought of peaceful reunification in our country goes out the window when Abraham Lincoln is killed by a Southerner and this conspirators, which the movie we watched in government. So, but again, that's stuff you will get to in American history with Mr. Barry or Mr. Yowler. Okay, and so now we're topic what we're going to be talking about. It's going to take us into World War I. All right, so we pick it up kind of what we consider the Second Industrial Revolution. The First Industrial Revolution was when our good friends, our relatives over here, the English, they find coal right below their surface. Coal heated up, makes steam, and steam power run the factories. So England leads this charge in the Industrial Revolution. They start making textiles. They start making clothing. They start making, later on, they're going to make steel, and they're going to make railroads, and they're going to make locomotives. And we're going to see a lot of crazy inventions. That was the first revolution. The second revolution is led by a lot of amazing men. One of them being Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, and you're going to see electricity. So when I do this in class, I think you guys to think of 5 things that were cool your freshman year that no one uses today. Then think of 3 inventions you predict that would happen in the next 5 years. So Your freshman year, 5 things that you thought were cool that no one uses today. So that's only like a year ago. I would think it was probably some type of an app that you use. I used to say like Facebook was really cool. I use Facebook, but you guys don't really use it. But probably some type of an app that was cool for like a minute and then you're over with. Think of 3 inventions you predict in the next 5 years. I bet what we're going through right now, I bet they're going to invent something that is going to deal with connectivity with when you're isolated, or maybe they're going to make a mask that you can produce at home, or something like that. Something that's going on right now. Like there's entrepreneurs that are ready to start making stuff that are going to make our lives easier. All right, so here's the first industrial revolution compared to the second industrial revolution. The first one was textiles, like your cotton, your clothing, railroads, iron, coal. The second one is steel. Steel is going to be very strong. It's going to enable us in America to build big, huge, gigantic skyscrapers. If any of you guys remember that poster I have in my room of the bros up there making the Empire State Building sitting on steel beams. You're also going to see chemicals. Chemicals are still being produced today. That's one of our things they talk about today is we need to produce our own medicine, our own pharmacy. It's surprising to see how much of our medicine is produced in China or in other nations. And they say, the United States needs to become like a world leader in producing pharmaceuticals, and chemicals go into that. Electricity, one thing it's going to do is going to allow businesses to stay open later and longer, start earlier, stay open later. Petroleum is going to even make it the factories more powerful. This is in America. I don't know what factory this is here, but this would be called urbanization. These are all factory workers. You could see really youngsters. One thing that's going to suffer in the Industrial Revolutions for a lot of people is education, because these kids are going to go off to work in the factory. The factory workers are not worried about Johnny and Joe being able to balance chemical equations or write a thesis statement, or being able to figure out an obtuse or acute angle is, etc. The factory owners are going to want to make sure that these bros down here can run a machine. They can be a cog in the wheel. They also teach them how to do one thing and do one thing really good, and therefore they're really limiting their ability to that one thing that they do. So we will see a problem here in the Industrial Revolution as far as people not being able to better themselves through education because they work so much. Some new products you read about here. A new Henry Bessemer made it a way to make really high quality steel efficiently. Steel is going to replace iron. Okay, electricity easily converted into energy. So we have Thomas Edison, and it's a really cool video on the History Channel about Thomas Edison, on how he got